Good to be back on State and Local. I hope you are glad to be with me again. We have an election for the opening and in the Select Board on January 28th. And one of the candidates is here with me today, a good friend of mine, who is David Rosenberg. I offered an interview to Jim Leon, and I did not hear anything back. So he can still get in touch with me. I guess there's plenty of time, but I just wanted to mention that. Well, thank you for coming in. We're too far apart to shake hands, but the sentiment is there.
Well, yeah, thank you very much for having me. I want to explain that the reason I'm wearing the mask is that I had tested positive for COVID and had to quarantine in my house, and I was told I need to wear a mask for 5 days after the quarantine, so that's why I'm wearing it. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes. Just out of curiosity, did you have any symptoms? Is that why you tested?
Yeah, I had a cough and some fatigue, and yes, the cough and fatigue made me a little suspicious, and so that I did the self-test because of that. And my wife did a self-test. Hers came out negative. Mine came out positive.
That's good. Right. I'm sure you'd rather it ended up that way than the other way.
I think yes.
So now this is your second time running for a select board.
Correct.
So you haven't been discouraged?
No, I mean, I feel that I want to offer my services to the town. If elected, I will do the job to the best of my ability, and the fact that the town voted for another candidate the last time, and that candidate is now no longer resident in Norfolk. I mean, that
right.
Elected, not candidate, that select board member is no longer resident. And so there's an opening for the unexpired term. And
oh, that's right. Yes. So how many months would that be?
It will basically be 2 years.
Oh, will be.
It was
okay. Oh, that's right. Because it wasn't long after she was reelected.
Right.
That they decided to sell the house and leave.
Right. And so she was elected for a second 3-year term.
Right.
And this is basically the first year of the 3-year term. So it'll be 2 years.
So now, are you on any other boards in town in terms of offering your services? I mean, like say, where there's no election involved, but
right.
you can.
I'm on the board of registrars of voters.
Oh, yes.
And that is inconsistent with holding any other appointed or elected office.
Right.
So if I were elected to the select board, I would have to resign from the board of registrars. But the only other office I'm holding now is I'm the registrars of voters.
Have you ever, well, I guess for some of these boards you need a certain amount of expertise in different things, I would imagine. I just wondered if you had ever considered any of the, being member of any of the other boards. I mean, you don't have any, perhaps, construction, knowledge, but you're very, very, very bright. So you've never thought about that?
Thank you. I mean, so my background is in information technology, and we had a town meeting computer committee. That wasn't his exact name. I guess it was town meeting computer study committee. So I was the member and chair of that while it existed. But
is that when you were trying to fix something up that people could go in and everybody was going to register to go in? You would be at the polls and people were registering to use something?
Yeah, so let me explain that. The idea that committee had was that the most effective application of technology would be to help people prepare for town meeting rather than use technology at the town meeting. Mm-hmm. And in order to prepare, we wanted to have an opportunity for people to ask questions about warrant articles, to argue in favor of warrant articles, to argue in opposition to warrant articles, to present information about what was happening in other towns or what had happened previously in Norfolk. And so the intention was a forum for discussing the warrants, the articles on the warrant prior to the town meeting. And our approach was that anybody in the world, wherever they were, could be an observer to that discussion, but the only people who could participate in the discussion would be Norfolk residents. And so we had a registration process to give accounts to all Norfolk residents who wanted accounts so that they could participate in the discussion. As I said, you didn't need an account just to observe it. It was,
Yes.
it was open to the world.
So it was like a big chat, wasn't it? Like a big chat room. There wasn't any Zoom back then, was
No,
there?
well, Zoom existed, but we weren't using Zoom. This was intended to be differ from a chat only in that it was more structured. In a case of a chat, people are talking about whatever they want to talk about in whatever order. And if you imagine the town warrant being an outline with each article being the top, level of the outline, and then below that maybe the advisory committee report, and below that questions or answers or arguments. So this was going to have that sort of structure, but other than being a lot more structured than a chat, it would be chat-like in the sense that it was text only rather than audio.
Now tell me, what is your what do you think could be improved in the way that select board runs? I mean, is there anything that you would improve in terms of the way it's organized, or the way conversations proceed?
Let me answer that a little indirectly, and say that I'm a big believer in citizen engagement and decision making. I don't have a great deal of trust in the wisdom of bureaucracies, and I'd like to involve citizens in more deeply in decision making, not just attending meetings and being in the audience and being able to ask questions, but rather to participate actively in brainstorming and bringing up new ideas about what the town needs, or what it doesn't need, or what we should have more of or less of, and where revenue should come from, and where we're expending too much money. So one philosophy I have is to try to encourage more citizen engagement. Another thing is that if you've ever observed me at town meetings, I tend to ask a lot of questions because I want to understand what's going on. I don't usually accept things at face value. I want more understanding.
Well, that's important, especially these days.
And I agree. So in fact, when looking at a town budget, I would come at it with, I would say, the advantage of a certain amount of ignorance about the budget, in that I would ask questions about everything and want everything explained and justified, and
and rightly so. But when they instituted that, I don't know how long, I guess it's been a year, when they started having people get up and have their questions or their comments at the beginning.
A public comment period at the beginning of the select board meetings.
Now, prior to that, weren't people just raising their hands and asking questions? Or do you recall? It seemed to me.
So there wasn't really a policy, and according to the open meeting law, there is no requirement that a board accept any comments from the public. I mean, the open meeting law requires that it be accessible to the public so the public can see and hear everything that's going on, but it's up to the chair of the board to decide whether or not he is willing to entertain comments from members of the public. And I think that
So
the
then, excuse
board
me.
didn't really do that very much.
No.
So I was pleased that they instituted this public comment period.
So without that, you would have had to have contacted them with your question or comment, and then it would kind of go off into cyberspace unless they came back with a direct answer, which I do remember. I do remember them answering individual questions. But my question about, what I'm wondering about this, when people would get up there and have their, their 15 minutes or whatever it was, were they supposed to pick that up at the next meeting?
Not
You recall? Not necessarily.
I mean,
That's what I thought.
so the open meeting law requires that there be an agenda that lists the topics that will be discussed. So they don't know what the public is going to say during the public comment period, and members of the public are open to bring up anything that falls within the jurisdiction of the select board. And the members of the select board are concerned that if they discuss that or try to respond to it, that will be a subject that wasn't on the agenda and
Right.
the public didn't have notice of.
Right.
And therefore, they usually refrain from that. They allow the public to comment and they don't respond usually.
But then the next meeting, weren't they supposed to take those issues up?
They could
Or was it at their discretion?
if somebody, if some member of the select board wanted that on the agenda, but my perception is that doesn't usually happen.
So what was the point then of that comment period?
Okay.
Other than just for somebody to feel like they'd gotten something, broadcast.
So I've never been a member of the select board, and so I can't answer that on behalf of the select board, but I can tell you my perception as just a citizen of Norfolk. And the perception is that some people want to be sure that the select board is aware of something, so they use the public comment period as a way of informing the select board. Sometimes they want the entire audience to be aware of something, so they'll use that as a platform to make a pitch, for everybody to hear. I guess if somebody really wants a response, they're going to have to pursue it outside of the public comment period. You may remember that the select board also had office hours for a while. This was where
Yes, I do.
each select board member would be in an office for
A different week or a different month, something like that, rotated.
Rotated, and I think with one person per month having like a 2-hour
Yes.
office hour period where people could drop in to discuss whatever they wanted to discuss. Since those were one-on-one discussions and there was not a quorum of the select board present, the open meeting law didn't control what could be discussed, and so that was an opportunity for members of the select board to respond not on behalf of the board but on behalf of themselves as individuals.
Has that gone away?
I'm not aware of it continuing, so as far as I know.
I wonder why they stopped it.
Probably initially because of the pandemic and wanting to avoid in-person meetings. Those were all in person.
Right. So that could certainly should be reinstated. I mean, it's just like the state reps coming out once a month to talk to people.
I think it was a good idea.
Yes.
I liked it when it was in effect. I took advantage of it and spoke to selectmen. Yeah, I'd like to see it reinstated. I mentioned earlier my desire to get as much citizen engagement as possible, and that's certainly one form of citizen engagement. The form that I'd really prefer is this larger group brainstorming, making trade-offs, talking about issues that affect more than one person,
Yes.
affect the town.
How do you feel about the level of bureaucracy in town? I mean, do you feel it's too much of a hierarchy? Is it too rigid? Is it do you think that in my experience, the heads of the different, boards like the, water or they've been pretty accessible. But I just wondered, what you thought about that.
So, my background is in information technology, and there's a discipline called Agile Software Development, and one of the parts of Agile development is to have self-directed teams where the team makes its decisions about how best to accomplish the goals it was given.
You mean Agile, Agile? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Excuse me. I think that we should be open to ideas like that, to have teams in town that that provide services and are the people who best understand the services, are the people who best know how to improve the services, who best know how to accomplish the services more economically, and to take advantage of their knowledge to basically optimize.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
No, it's okay. To optimize what they're doing.
Those should be the heads of the boards that should know that. And in other words, the different boards. I'm just thinking of DPW right now for some reason. But I mean, those are the people. As an example, they're the ones that really should know if they've been, if they're a good hire, how to address whatever comes before them that has to be done, and know how to do it economically.
So the people who are delivering the services hands-on,
yes,
for example,
yeah,
in reading water meters, maybe.
Yeah.
The people who go out and read the water meters are the ones who understand that best,
right,
and who understand how they could do it more quickly or less expensively. If the person managing that has had personal experience doing it, then they should have a lot of information on it. If they haven't, they should rely on the people who are in the field, sort of hands-on, touching customers to provide expertise. And I would be in favor of at least exploring the idea of more self-direction on the part of teams.
Which would mean less direction from the town administrator as to how they do their job.
At the detail level, certainly yes. I mean, overall goals, need to be set above it.
Because really, it's the select board that runs the town, and the town administrator has more direct contact with the various departments. Didn't mean boards. I meant departments. Because recently there was a contract awarded for to a new person. This is not that recent. It's been a while. And it was a 3-year contract to a brand new person. And I thought that didn't make sense. I would think you'd offer a year's contract to an unknown person and then renew it. But it was the select board, went 3 years right at the beginning. I don't know if you remember that, without mentioning any names, but and I mean, it was, that's what they decided to do, but it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't have enough knowledge about the details of that.
You don't remember this?
I think I do remember it, but I don't feel that I understood the pros and cons of both sides well enough. So if I were on the select board, I'd want to understand that much more thoroughly and have a voice in it.
You mean maybe in case somebody had said, well, if I'm not going to get 3 years,
or
it's off, something like that.
That's one possibility. Another possibility is they wanted to lock in a certain salary for 3 years rather than have to negotiate a higher salary later. So as I said, I don't know enough of the particulars. If I'm elected to the select board, I will know the particulars of everything because I'm pretty detail oriented.
Mm-hmm. I do think that having those that information that they put out before the meetings. That was something that it was like, I would think that's like new within a year or so. You know, the packets, the so-called packet,
Right.
that you can look in and read all of the background of. Just that, you must think that's a pretty good idea. Did you appreciate that when that came
Yes,
out?
I did. I used to download them and read them thoroughly, and some of them were fairly long.
Yes.
Perhaps longer than 100 pages for one meeting.
Yes.
Because there were.
Depending on what was going on.
Yeah, the
All
text of a contract or
yeah.
the text of a.
and the correspondence.
Yes. So yeah, I thought that was a good way of getting more detailed information to citizens. I'm not sure how many citizens actually took the time to read it, and
Just a handful, probably, people that really follow
but
the meetings.
But I think making it available was good. Making it more easily accessible, not accessible in the sense of access to it, but it's accessible in the sense of making it easy to understand.
Oh, that, true, yes.
Would be a good thing. I want to involve more citizens in government decision making, and so in order to do that, they need to understand what's going on, and that those packets were a good way of giving people all the background about
Yes.
particular issues.
It's hard to get people to come forward and do things like that. I mean, in a way, I'm kind of surprised at all the volunteers that we have in town and all these boards, because, some of the decisions can be very, very impactful. And, if you're a volunteer and you're, you're taking that on, it's a responsibility.
Yeah, it is. You may remember that I was and still am promoting an amendment to the Massachusetts open meeting law that would permit public internet discussions. Right now, the meeting law basically says that a quorum of a board, a public body is the phrase they use. The quorum of a public body can only deliberate on issues within their jurisdiction in a posted meeting, and unless it meets certain qualifications for an executive session, it has to be in a posted open meeting. And that is interpreted as precluding the possibility of having a discussion on the internet. Presumably the reason is for fear that that would be hidden from the public, that there would be secret deliberations, and the bill that I was advocating would say that public internet discussions need to be announced in the same way that meetings are announced. They need to be open in the sense that members of the public can monitor what's going on as fully as members of the public body themselves.
Well, isn't that just common sense?
Well, I think so, but that's not the way. The current open meeting law was passed in, I believe, 2009 and went into effect in 2010. And their interpretation was that private communications were prohibited because they wanted everything to be conducted in public view, and they considered that discussions on the internet were potentially private conversations, and so this amendment would say, well, I mean, they could have private discussions on the internet are possible. I mean, you can do things privately, but the amendment that I'm advocating would say that it has to be open to the public. It has to be announced the same way that a meeting is announced.
Have you heard anything back? Was Dooley helping you with that, or?
Right. So it was proposed in the state legislature for state legislature sessions are 2-year sessions. It was proposed for 5 consecutive sessions, and it's never gotten out of committee yet. And I've gotten support from local representatives.
Auchincloss?
Well, no, local representatives at the state level.
Oh, state, I'm sorry,
State,
correct, right.
State open meeting law.
That's right, he's
So
federal.
Dan Winslow was the first one who filed the bill.
He was a good guy. I'm sorry he left us. He did a lot of good, I thought.
The bill, then I've shopped around for other people to file the bill, and I've lobbied in the State House to get co-sponsors for it. I was pleased, it's a bill that is nonpartisan, that is, it doesn't benefit
Right.
Republicans or
Right,
Democrats
right.
any more than anybody else. And so I was pleased that I'd gotten both Democratic and Republican support on it, support in the sense of co-sponsors. But it's never made it out of committee, and in this current session just ending, it still has not made it out
Seems
of
like a
committee
small thing
in a meaningful way.
to concede. We've just got it. We've run out of time. I just see. So, but best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you here and talk about different things, because you're a font of information
Thank
of
you.
a certain type, at least.
I've enjoyed the sessions. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk to you and talk about what I would do if I'm elected as select board, and why I think that would be a good idea. So,
All right.
you.
So thank you, David, and thanks for watching. Again, that's going to be on January 28th. The election to fill the slot that's open. David is a candidate, and I've got one other interview lined up. If the other person that I had offered it to, if Jim Leon would like to get in touch with me, there's an email out there for him. So thanks for watching. This is Norfolk Community TV. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone, and you've been watching State and Local.
And I'd also like to recommend that point out that early voting is possible. So the election is on January 28th, but there's an early voting period where people can go to the town hall and vote.
Oh, all right. Oh, good. Okay. All right. Okay, good to know.
Thank you.